The Happy Warrior Podcast. Conservative commentary on the news of the day from a more positive perspective.
The lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. Hey, welcome. This is once again the Happy Warrior Podcast. Here with your host, Peter, the V for victory, Pishki. I swear I wasn't going to talk about the Kavanaugh stuff anymore. I was going to say Kavanaugh, but dang nabbit, the media's got me in tights and twists, so I'm just going to barely touch about the Kavanaugh stuff and then move on, because this is a podcast about bringing sides together with the principles of the reason and enlightenment, not pulling us apart. But I had to say something. Some of you may have heard this.
Right? I had one beer. Well, do you think it was... Nope, it was one beer. Oh, good. How did you get home? I don't remember. How'd you get there? I don't remember. Where is the place? I don't remember. How many years ago was it? I don't know. What neighborhood was it in? I don't know. Where's the house? I don't know. Upstairs, downstairs, where was it? I don't know. But I had one beer. That's the only thing I remember. And a man's life is in tatters. A man's life is shattered.
I was not going to talk about Kavanaugh at all today, guys. Honest, I wasn't. I was going to let it go. I know Robert, my kind producer, kindest man in the world, one of the very kindest people I've ever known. That's why one of the reasons I feel that God put us together. Yeah, I feel like he's the perfect person that can handle my nuances. I'm very much glass cannon sometimes. I can give it, but I don't take it as well. Well, I wasn't going to touch on Kavanaugh. Really, I was not going to talk about it, but I read this amazing piece also in the New York Times by Bret Stephens. Bret Stephens is what would be described as a conservative columnist by someone if you're CNN or if you're the New York Times. Bret Stephens is a mild conservative. I would say that Bret Stephens shares the views that a majority of the living and breathing Americans have right now. I bet that he and my friend Robert, who is a little more that direction, would have very, very much in common. So Bret Stephens, I feel, speaks for us all of us who call ourselves conservatives or Americans and believe in the due process of law. So I'm just going to read some of this essay. Bret Stephens, you should know, is not a Trump fan. Bret Stephens hates Trump. Bret Stephens says President Trump is a pedophile and he would not vote for him. This is as recently as July. They had a column putting down President Trump. So he is one of the people that wears the tag Never Trumper proudly. There are very few people that actually do that vote GOP, but Bret Stephens is one of them. And I'm not a big Trump fan. I didn't vote for him. I support the president when he sticks to principles that I believe in, when he holds to the Constitution and the principles of free trade and small government, principles of the Enlightenment, Adam Smith, Voltaire, John Locke, that kind of thing. When he isn't, when he's away from it, I put him down. I like to think that I'm very reasonable. I try to be reasonable. I hope I can be a reasonable person. If you're listening, I hope you're a reasonable person. I thank you for taking the time to listen, especially if you disagree. So here we go, from the Bret Stephens article. For the first time since Donald Trump entered the political fray, I find myself grateful that he's in it. I'm reluctant to admit it and astonished to say it, especially since the president mocked Christine Blasey Ford in his ugly and gratuitous way at a rally on Tuesday. Perhaps it's worthy unpacking this admission for those who might be equally astounded to read it. Okay, so he's saying he's not exactly happy with what Trump said or how he said it. But get this, I am grateful because Trump has not bucked down on the face of the slipperiness, hypocrisy, and dangerous standard setting deployed by opponents of Brett Kavanaugh nomination to the Supreme Court. I'm grateful because ferocious and even crass obstinacy has its uses in life, and never more so than the face of sly moral bullying. I am grateful because he's a big, fat hammer, fending off a razor-sharp dagger. And that, my friends, is all I have got to say about the Kavanaugh situation and President Trump. So what do these two things have together? What does the audio of Donald Trump speaking and Bret Stephens' article an essay about Donald Trump and the Kavanaugh situation? Well, they show that there are two sides to our country right now. We are so divided as a nation. I have a study that came out just this last week that shows how big this division is. One half of the country hears President Trump, and they might not even hear the audio because they often go without showing the audio or use only a very small, slim part of it. They think, wow, he was mocking sexual assault victims, sexual assault survivors. He's being selfish and brutish and unkind. On the other side of the country, we see as Donald Trump, though ugly, is defending our beliefs in the right of due process. We feel that if it was our brother, our son, our father, our uncle, our friend, sometimes even a woman, that an allegation of sexual assault is devastating. Brett Stevens' point here that an allegation of sexual assault is evil, and it is comparable in some ways to sexual assault. It affects your family life, it affects your ability to think, it affects your self-image, it affects your jobs, it affects your reputation. An allegation of sexual assault can stick with you forever. I mean, we're still, this whole Kavanaugh thing, we've talked about Clarence Thomas 1,000 times. I know a lot of people my age know the name Anita Hill, but they don't really know any of the details of the actual allegations. That was a dirty joke in a can of soda pop. But that's why Americans like me, people who want to stick to due process and reason, and hopefully that stays true, even if it was President Obama and it was the Supreme Court justices. Hopefully, I'd like to say that I would stand by my beliefs in due process and the rights of every individual citizen. But who knows? Who knows? This is the Happy Warrior Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to move away now from Kavanaugh. I want to talk about some more important things today. Dreadfully important, so important. In fact, I'm even going to put them in priority of importance. Plus, then I'm going to have some fun news. A certain Chinese actress came out of the woodwork and is still breathing to everyone's shock. I'm also going to talk a little bit about intersectionality and Nazis and a guy that broke out of a French prison using dynamite in a helicopter. And what else? Oh, and we're going to read news. News that's important. That's probably more important than Kavanaugh hearings that none of us has heard of from the last month. We have heard nothing but Kavanaugh. Well, for once, let's try some news that's a little bit different. Up first, number one is Kanye West.
You see, they laughing at me. You heard them, they scream at me. They bullied me. They bullied me backstage. They said, don't go out there with that hat on. They bullied me backstage. They bullied me. And then they say I'm in a sunken place. You want to see the sunken place? Okay. I'm going to listen to y'all now. Or I'm going to put my Superman cape on. Because this means you can't tell me what to do. Follow your heart and stop following your mind. That's how we're controlled. That's how we're programmed. If you want the world to move forward, try love. Thank y'all for giving me this platform. I know some of y'all don't agree, but y'all be going at that man neck a lot, and I don't think it's actually that helpful. I think the universe has balance. 90% of news are liberal. 90% of TV, LA, New York, writers, rappers, musicians. So it's easy to make it seem like it's so one-sided. And I felt kind of free. I thought this country said...
Well, there you have it. That's the audio of Kanye West at the Saturday Night Live. He was just, he did a couple weird segments. He did this one segment where he played a bottle of champagne, or I don't know what it was. He was a bottle of something. Yeah, wacky. My first episode of the Happy Warrior Podcast started talking about, it started with Kanye West. So Kanye West and I, we go back. We have a virtual relationship. So here we are again with the Kanye. I don't know. Back in the day, I think there was something about Kanye West and 50 Cent having this big fight. I never really cared. So I'm gonna be one of those honest hypocrites and saying I'm only interested in Kanye West because he's starting to talk about politics, and some of his politics make sense. He actually, his little diatribe there made more sense than he usually does. But we'll try to piece apart what Kanye West is trying to say. So Kanye West is heavily involved with him and his wife on the issue of prison reform. They have been working with the Trump White House and have visited Trump personally a number of times now, and have been trying to work on getting prison reform done. So Kanye West actually has tried to do real work that I think most leftists would be in agreement of. I hope there are people on the right. I know I'm not into all the prison reform ideas, but I think generally he is making a good deal of sense. So what are we talking about? Well, Kanye West is big on the issue of the 13th Amendment. He came out and says, I'm against the 13th Amendment. Okay, I'll just read the tweet. He says, "This represents good and America becoming whole again. We will no longer outsource to other countries. We will build factories here in America and create jobs. We will provide jobs for all those who are free from prisons as we abolish the 13th Amendment." Oh, and I should add, he also says, "Message sent with love." We can probably both guess how well the news media and celebrities took that. 13th Amendment, you have a problem with the 13th Amendment? And then everyone, the media and the celebrities, they go to Google. Google, what is the 13th Amendment? For us people that don't remember anything from our U.S. history or civics class, well, the 13th Amendment says this: "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction." Well, as you can guess, this seems on the face of it, if you don't know much about the history of the 13th Amendment or how it has been used in the courts and legal systems that we have in the United States, you would say, what, Kanye West is for slavery? Kanye West wants slavery? Kanye West is black. How could he hate the 13th Amendment? And that is about as deep as most of the articles have gone. They're as in like a puddle. Like they're deep as a puddle. They have no recollection of the context of what he's talking about. And actually, Kanye West isn't alone in wanting to repeal the 13th Amendment. It's actually one of the top amendments. You can find fighters for it on the left and right. That if they were going to repeal amendment for the Constitution, this comes right up there. That and with the 16th Amendment. The 16th Amendment, of course, which allows the income tax. Yeah, yuck. I'm not a big fan of that one. Going back to the 13th Amendment, which I think it's impossible to get rid of, by the way. I don't think we're ever getting rid of the 13th Amendment. And in Mr. West's defense, he actually later clarified that he doesn't want to get rid of all the 13th Amendment. He just wants to get rid of the 13th Amendment that says this: as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. He also further writes that this amendment allows slavery in disguise. Kanye West is 100,000 times percent correct. 100,000 times percent correct. He is completely right. In the South, after the Civil War was done, many states used this amendment to allow slavery in disguise, which, quoting Mr. West again, so what happened was, after the Civil War, many people in the South forced black convicts to work on convict leasing programs, and they would work basically unpaid, and they would work for private companies. Now, wait, private companies that force black people to work without pay against their will. That sounds familiar. Yeah, and sadly, including the state of South Dakota, there are many states in the United States that pay prisoners very little or absolutely nothing in the case of states like Arkansas and Georgia. Now, Kanye West, I am in complete agreement with him that this is a problem. You know, when I was younger, I thought, oh, that's great. Inmates work, they gain work ethic at the same time. You know, the state benefits people to work on, public buildings, schools, help dig ditches, that kind of thing. That's what my view was when I was younger. Now I've turned that around, because isn't it stealing to work and not be paid? Isn't it slavery to work, be forced to work and not be paid? Yes, work ethic is good, but work ethic only works when you have that reward at the end of the day. You have to have a reason for working. A lot of these people have families outside of the prison system that, they could use that extra income. Now, I could see all kinds of problems if we just started to pay all our prisoners, minimum wage, but say even like $5 an hour. I mean, I don't know. If we did pay our prisoners, it would cost hundreds of millions of dollars. It'd be really, really expensive to do it. But it's a pretty big issue that's worth talking about. So that's why Kanye West is awesome. He is using his power of celebrity to help the masses, the citizens of the United States, try to gain understanding of a complex issue, to put light on a dark spot that few would like to look at, because the rich, the powerful, and the politically connected are always the ones to benefit from this free slave labor. So, ladies and gentlemen, after explaining the issue to you, what do you think? Is Kanye West right, or is Kanye West wrong? Is Kanye West as crazy as some people would like to say he is? Or is Kanye West maybe one of the smartest celebrities out there? And in Mr. West's defense, once again, this isn't new for him. Actually, Kanye's known about this issue for a while. Now, Kanye is not a friend of Reaganomics. He's not a friend of President Reagan. He does not like the man or his policies. But he has this verse in his song, Ronald Reagan. I had to look this up. I have not listened to the song, and I can't share the song here because of fair use issues. I'm willing to use news clips, but use popular top 40 songs. That's a no. Anyhow, he says, I'll just read the lyrics. He says, they would beat us up if we had diamonds on our watches, and they would take our drugs and money as they pick our pockets. I guess that's the privilege of policing for some profit. But thanks to Reaganomics, prisons turn to profit. I like the rhyming there. Cause free labor is the cornerstone of U.S. economics. Cause slavery was abolished unless you are in prison. You think I am BSing? Then read the 13th Amendment. Involuntary servitude and slavery it prohibits. That's why they give in drug offenders time in double digits. Thank you. No, seriously, thank you. I'm too humbled. Thank you. And one more thing I want to say about Kanye. I have chronic pancreatitis. I am a chronic pain patient. I deal with severe, intractable chronic pain multiple times, sometimes all the whole day and night long. So in a different way, Kanye West is a hero to those of us who are disabled, because Kanye West is one of the few people out there that's willing to come out in public, being the star like he is, about being diagnosed with a mental condition. He says he has bipolar disorder. Here's what he said this summer. He said, I'm so blessed and so privileged, because think about people that have mental issues that are not Kanye West. They can't go and make that album and make it feel like it's all good. I've never been diagnosed, and I was like 39 years old. And I have this article here. It says from Billboard. It says, West revealed, clarifying they meant diagnosed with a mental condition. And here's the quote I see frickin' everywhere online. It's not a disability, it's a superpower. And I see this all the time on the chronic pain advocates on the chronic pain Reddit. I'm a frequent reader of chronic pain Reddit, and that phrase, it's not a disability, it's a superpower. So way to go, Kanye West. I just listed a bunch of good things about Kanye West today. So Kanye West is a thinker, at least on the issue of the 13th Amendment. Kanye West has a hot wife, everyone knows that, and he also is open about his disabilities. So way to go, Kanye. Yes, I know I'm a hypocrite for pointing all this out, because if it was a sports celebrity or a different musician and they were like, oh man, the Constitution's awful, we should get rid of the Bill of Rights, I feel like, I hate them. So I get it. I'm a bit of a hypocrite, but I had to point out, I mean, someone's got to stand up for Mr. Kanye West, right? Right? Well, let's move on from Mr. Kanye West and move to some more important things. The news came out today. Avengers 4, Chris Evans ends filming with the emotional look back at playing Captain America. Yep. Chris Evans is no longer going to play Captain America. Avengers Infinity War Part 2. That's going to be the last Captain America movie with Captain America in it. Sadly, I mean, that makes me so sad. I love Chris Evans. Captain America in the Marvel series in the Marvel movie series is my favorite. I think Chris Evans does a standout job. I've kind of always loved Captain America, but when they brought Captain America to the big screen, they portrayed him really well. My favorite movie in the Marvel movies is Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier. Really, really good movie. It's the best. It's the best of the Marvel movies, I think, the way it was created and produced, at least for the serious ones. If you want a serious Marvel movie that can make a serious case and wants to act as serious cinema, that's the movie. Now, if it's for funny, I might go Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, maybe Thor Ragnarok. Anyhow, really, really good stuff. But I'm so sad that he's going to leave. Now, what's going to happen after that? I think what they're probably going to do is they're going to make either Winter Soldier or they're going to make Falcon. Is that his name? Yeah, it's Falcon. Whatever. Into the new Captain America. Because in the comics, both of them have taken a turn at being Captain America. With the Winter Soldier as Captain America, that line, Bucky as Captain America, really well loved. It's portrayed as one of the favorites of the fans. The time as Falcon, not so much, because you see, when they went Falcon, they got really political. And that just does not play well with the Captain America crowd. I know they keep trying to do it, but it fails every time because that's not what people are looking for when they read Captain America. They want a superhero that stands for American principles and is fun and stands for morality and defends his friends and not just on the battlefield, but with his words. That was kind of touchy-feely, but there you go. It makes me sad. It really makes me sad. But you know what else makes me sad?
Hey, what are you doing? Or I get the toy put in my lap and whatnot. So
Pay attention to me.
Yeah, exactly.
A new study shows dogs may become more anxious and possibly even suffer from doggy depression due to our overuse of smartphones.
A lot of times in the dog park, people just don't pay attention in general.
The new norm seems to be paying attention to our screens and forgetting about Fido.
He very much is like, hey, I'm here, or he tries to act out.
He sees me on the phone all the time. And he looks at me like, come on, I see you on your phone.
Yeah, sorry if that was a little bit rough of a transition. I'm trying to use multi-tracks when I build these things. That's kind of sad. Yeah, the study, dogs might get depressed when owners overuse their smartphones. So the story basically is this UK group did a study, and they did with dogs. They tried using it with the cats, and they wanted to see how cell phones affected how the animals behaved. They did it with cats. Cats did not care one bit. It's like, whatever, man. Whatever. I don't care. that pretty much slims up a cat. That hurts. Feed me or I'll eat you. No. But when they did the dogs got depressed. Because dogs read, the way they thought this works is dogs read facial language. And so when a dog is looking at you for attention or wants to, read you, they look at your face, you got the blasé look. Look, Kavanaugh. There's Trump. Not a lot of intelligence going on. They get sad. Dogs get depressed. I read this story on like Monday or Tuesday, and it's bothered me this whole week. I've been like, I need to take her out. I need to get her exercise. What do you want to do? I try to feed her extra eats. I try not to say it. She's sitting right next to me as I record this, so I don't want Admiral Snuggleberry to be like, what? Where? The other thing I can't say is the WALK word. That's another one. I say that's too late. She expects it. I spoil my dog rotten. It's just awesome. I don't know. It's kind of awesome that they did this study. Kind of sad, too. Look at my screens. I only recently got a smartphone. I've had tablets and computers and stuff, but I didn't really ever have a smartphone until just like a year ago, within this last year. And I'm surprised, if I'm going someplace, if I'm in the car while someone else is driving, if I'm just kind of walking and I feel like I got time to kill, I'll look at it. But it does tune you out with what's going on around you. So I don't know. I like the convenience of it. I like the cool techiness of it and being able to read news and communicate where I go. On the other hand, I hate to make my dog sad. No one wants to make Fido sad. You know what else makes me sad? Well, this is kind of just a sad roundup. Everything that makes Peter sad. Go! The Japanese government wants to do a tax hike. This is a perfect illustration about how taxes kill businesses, and not just any business, but businesses we love. Something that makes a culture unique. They're often ones that don't make a lot of money doing it. That's what's happening in Japan. So Japan has a thriving arcade industry where it's died elsewhere in the world, including the United States, Canada. There are very few places where arcades can live, especially like with new machines. Okay, Japan has oodles and oodles of machines. 44,000 arcades. There were 44,000 arcades in Japan in the mid-'80s. But as of 2014, there's now 5,772 arcades that are licensed. So, I mean, even at 5,772, that's still a lot, even if it isn't 44,000. But, I mean, that's still something that's there. Well, Japan wants to do a tax hike. And the reason why this will kill it is because when they go to arcade, they expect to put in 100 yen coin. So think of it, we have a quarter. This is much more than a quarter. It's more like 44 cents, something like that. But you put in the quarter. The quarter's convenient. It's what everyone's used to. It's what the culture says you use quarters. Well, in Japan, to use 100 yen coin. Well, they want a tax hike. And of course, that means that you can't just use this one coin. You have a tax hike. Well, not culturally it'll hurt, but also it'll hurt these businesses because they don't thrive. They don't make a lot of money doing the arcade. They're just barely, keeping above water. And if this comes through, this will just, that's a nuclear bomb on top of these Japanese arcades. And you ask any gamer or anime guy that goes to Japan, what are the things they want to do when they visit? They want to visit one of the famous Japanese arcades because they're a hoot. They're a lot of fun. I'm jealous. There's this one Dragon Ball Z card game. Oh, it looks so cool. Only in Japan. I don't want us to kill off these arcade games. So why are you doing this, Japan? Why you need them? Why you need to take the monies? Sad. You know what else makes me sad? This should be Sad Warrior, not Happy Warrior. You know what else makes me sad? There's going to be a Hollywood live-action Mega Man movie and a Hollywood live-action Sonic movie, and I can guarantee you that they will both be awful. Now, they just announced the live-action Mega Man movie, but there already was an announced Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Now, Sonic the Hedgehog movie is going to come out in 2019. It's going to star James Marsden. It's going to be awful. Well, in Capcom, they're like, oh man, we can't let Sega get all that good, terrible video game movie money. We need to get in on that action. So they convinced some poor A-lister to, spend 100-something million. Probably will never make that back. Or if they do, it still doesn't justify making such a terrible, terrible movie. I have very little hope for these things. They really are going to be bad. But oh well, it's only for the kiddos, right? They're made for the kiddos so that they're a one-off during Christmas or Thanksgiving, and that they've had it. Maybe a little bit on the side with merchandising. Whatever. It's going to be like the Mario Brothers movie or the Prince of Persia movie all over again. Neither of which did very well in the box office, but at least the Prince of Persia movie was okay. Actually, looking back, the Mario Brothers movie is kind of awesome. It's so wacky and weird. We need to cover the Super Mario Brothers movie sometime on the Happy Warrior podcast. Or if not this one, I should share it with one of my sister podcasts that Robert Melling produces. I think the Dresch Code. Let's see if we can get the Dresch Code to do that. That'd be cool. And yeah, be sure to check out any of those other podcasts. Okay, so let's go back to Reelsville. Let's go back to stuff that actually matters. Entertainment is so much more fun to cover. But no, let's go to stuff that actually matters. So those YouTube videos that like to go over a different video and they like to take breaks every 10, 15, 30 seconds and then interject and then quickly go back to the video. Yeah, we're going to try that here. So if it doesn't work out, sorry, I'm trying to experiment. I want to make this thing better. I want to grow it. I want to give it a little bit of sunshine, a little water, cool, fresh breeze. So let's try this out. Okay, the video we're going to do is called Stossel Leaving the Left. This is by John Stossel. He is the reason I have a master's in journalism. He is the one that made me want to go into journalism. John Stossel is awesome, and one day we'll talk about him. He did this cool video just talking to Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin is, traditionally, he was a lefty. And this is kind of about that. He was on the Young Turks. He's interviewed political scientists from both the left and the right. He's one of the few honest brokers, someone that really does have intellectual integrity and tries to live those principles of the Enlightenment I so often like to wax philosophical about.
Yeah, you have a question?
Hate speech does incite violence. Hate speech does incite violence. Black lives matter.
Yeah, gotcha.
These protesters don't want this man to speak. The speaker is Dave Rubin.
Hello, Internet. My name is Dave Rubin. I am the newest host here on The Young Turks.
He was once a leftist.
Obviously, I'm for Obamacare.
You and I both started on the left.
Yeah.
Why did you switch?
Oh, I woke up.
Yeah, so Dave Rubin and John Stossel, they showed a clip right here at the beginning, because this is an audio podcast, of these people, these protesters at meetings that Dave Rubin speaks at. And it's ironic because Dave Rubin, until just a very little teeny bit ago, was an ardent leftist. In fact, in many things, he still is. Abortion, gay marriage. In fact, he and John Stossel are both what we call classical liberals. That's what I am. I'm a classical liberal, maybe libertarian. I think I differ on some of the social issues than Dave Rubin and John Stossel, but besides that, we're soulmates. They're my spirit animals. We're in tune with the flow and the energies and the natures and the masculinity. Oh, sorry, I'm channeling a little bit Kanye West there, but yeah, it's funny. You look at Dave Rubin, because actually he was in their camp till just a little bit ago. Okay, let's go back to the video.
He started doing a podcast and interviewed guests like Larry Elder.
The most blatant racist example you can come up with right now.
Cops are more willing to shoot if the perpetrator is black.
What's your data?
Than white.
What's your basis for saying that? 70% of the homicides are black on black. The idea that a racist white cop and shooting unarmed black people is a peril to black people is BS.
Bam, sucker! That's right, Larry Elder smacked him with a bunch of facts. He's like, boom, 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 take that. Little young Dave Rubin without the beard is like, oh no, I don't know what to say to that.
He just beat me with fact over fact over fact about how systemic racism doesn't exist. Not that racism doesn't exist.
The more people he interviewed, the more he questioned his former beliefs.
I realized that not everyone that these people disagreed with could be a racist and a bigot and a homophobe and a sexist. And that was the argument that was constantly being laid out. If there was a Republican that gave a speech and said, we should lower taxes, their answer was, he's racist. Now that actually makes no sense.
That is awesome, and I'm not a big Dave Rubin listener, but I have family members that are, and they say the best things about him, and they say, well, I disagree with Dave Rubin, but he does really good interviews. Dave Rubin, ladies and gentlemen, is something what we call an honest intellectual. An honest intellectual, that is what I try to be. That's what Americans traditionally should have tried to have been. An honest intellectual is someone that has real principles that they live their life by and that they believe in, but they allow facts to be able to change their mind. Not that underlying bedrock doesn't change, about truth, justice, the American way, but instead the facts. So that you should be able to learn, you should be able to grow. Your mind should change as you gain new information. And that's what Dave Rubin did. Dave Rubin would interview people on the left and the right, and the more he did, the more he learned. And he was honest with himself. And that's what, you watch Dave Rubin interview, especially even, not even just the recent ones, you go years back, and they're fantastic because he is really willing to debate, he's really willing to question, he's really willing to look into it. You feel when he gives the interviews that he is in the process of being an honest learner. And that is that's awesome. That is the best. Kudos to Dave Rubin for doing that.
Rubin now considers himself a classical liberal. On his podcast, he tries to interview people from the left and the right.
Should government subsidize gay marriage and straight
That's
marriage?
Ben Shapiro's voice, by the way.
Rubin was surprised that many people on the right were willing to debate.
For all the differences that we might have, I'm pro-choice. Most of them are pro-life. I'm against the death penalty. Most of them are for the death penalty. They're all willing to sit down and discuss ideas.
When I went from left to libertarian, the right was willing to argue.
If you believe in the individual, then you fundamentally understand that individuals are different. So you are willing to sit down with someone different than you.
Now, some of you are going to hate that. My listeners that are from the left side of the street are going to hate this, but there is an honest truth that you guys need to be facing, is that people on the right are more willing to discuss hard issues, because I think, for whatever reason, I think we're more used to it. I think the ideologies we have about freedom, enlightenment, they exist on the old Voltaire saying, I disagree with what you say, but I'll defend my life for you to the right to say it. So some of us will become uncomfortable, and it happens. No one's perfect, and there are people on both sides that are dishonest, but I think they're more honest talkers. They're willing to put away benefits aside and have an honest discussion. And I love that. That's why the intellectual dark web is made up of so very many people from the right side of the street. It's why that many people that enter the intellectual dark web, Christine Hoff Sommers, who is an equitable feminist, she used to be a leftist, essentially, or she actually was more like the left her, the Democrats left her. They get pressed into sometimes being put as the people on the right because they talk to other people on the right. But the thing is, the people on the right are the ones willing to talk to Christina Hoff Sommers. Okay, the leftists just shout her down. This video opened with those women shouting Dave Rubin down. Those women probably don't know this, but Dave Rubin holds at least half their views. I mean, they're allies on probably as many views as they oppose him on. But they don't know that because they're not willing to debate. You can't have intellectual honesty without honest debate. And so if you're on the left, and this goes to people on the right, any site on the political spectrum, if you want to learn, if you want to be a good learner, an honest learner, a member of the intellectual elite, the real ones, the ones that matter, the ones that will stand even the test of time, that have their names written in heaven because they stood with what they believed, and they were honest, and they were intellectual about their honesty, their honesty about their intellectual. Man, that Kanye West is really rubbing off on me. I am losing the way to speak, but I hope you understand my Kanye West-isms there, right? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, let's move on.
For more hours. I never thought that people would listen to interviews that long, but millions of people watch.
I didn't know what was going to happen, but I started doing more of these long-form interviews, and people kept watching, and then suddenly I realized, whoa, there's a lot of people that are thinking the things that I'm thinking. Not just me, by the way, there's Joe Rogan and there's others. We're allowing people to go, all right, let's really listen to something. Let's really unpack an idea. You don't learn anything when you watch CNN. You will actually be dumber. But having watched CNN.
Yeah, she's Louise. Sometimes these interviews with Dave Rubin and others can be 3 or 4 hours. I mean, that's crazy. Okay, so the great point he makes there is you watch CNN, you get nothing from it. You watch CNN, in fact, you get a little bit dumber. Amen, brother. I mean, he totally got it. You can watch television news for the news part, but even on, Fox, MSNBC, and CNN, there's less and less frequent of actual news content and more pandering opinion and arguing, and that's what turns people off. I think that's a detrimental thing that journalism has moved to cheaper news, which is talking heads. That it's amazing. There is here's the thing, you think 3-hour interviews, no one's going to watch that, but he's actually crazy successful. I just talked with Robert Melling a couple episodes back about Elon Musk. With the Joe Rogan Elon Musk interview, was 3 hours. The one with the katana and the marijuana and whatever else they were doing, I don't know. It's crazy, but it is true. People have a content to be intellectual. See, it's not just that intellectual honesty is something to be good. It's that many people want to be honest intellectuals. Okay, sometimes we think that because we are on the right issues that we don't see a mirror view of our decency and our honesty and our hope for academic integrity, that we don't see it on TV. We just don't think it exists. We're like, well, no one cares anymore. No one gives a dang. That's not true. The reason why the intellectual dark web got its name is because it poses a threat to traditional media heads. Because people pay attention to it. People actually care about it. They're getting views. This is why Google is so worried about it and wants to, Google, Facebook, the rest of Silicon Valley want to mess with these people like Dave Rubin because they have an audience. People are actually learning from them. And that threatens their beliefs because they come from, and here we go again, leftists, they come from the left side of the street, where from the ideas of the Frankfurt School, such as Herbert Marcuse, of good old Berkeley. And Herbert Marcuse talked at Berkeley that it's not enough just to be against hate speech. You have to actually go out there and you have to censor it. In fact, almost any action, as long as it's on the side of the righteous, it's okay. And that's why people like Dave Rubin have so much go. It's because people like me aren't allowed to hardly talk without being castigated. To the detriment not just of the people on the left, but the detriment of everyone. You think this divide we have in America is just because of talking heads on the TV news? No, it's what we're not getting in our diet. You could just eat sugar all day long, and you could try to eat sugar over and over, and it won't sustain you. After a while, your body's going to give out because there's no nutrients there. There's nothing healthy there. And so not having access to real thought, real academic, intellectual honesty is hurting our whole nation.
And because he sometimes criticizes leftists, and maybe because his podcasts are so successful, his former colleagues now hate him.
You know, the right wing loves him now because he's a puppet for the right wing. He was lazy when he worked here. He's lazy now with his ridiculous show.
She just sounds envious.
I lost friends. I still lose friends now. I mean, it's incredible because this goes to the laziness of the argument of the left. They believe that if you disagree with them, that you're evil.
Evil is what these protesters call it.
Ladies, I'll gladly take a question from you. Have we established that already?
They say just allowing him to speak is a form of violence.
We don't want you in the LGBT community, so get the F out.
Rubin's insensitive to the victims on camp.
Biased incidents reports and hate crimes have gone up.
Yeah, so...
And people have been spit on, and people have been threatened, and people have been told to go home to their country.
It doesn't mean that bad people don't exist, but tell me about your oppression. Maybe we can work through something. I mean, tell me about your oppression.
So I have no reason to sit and talk about my own oppression because that's just like mental energy. Well, unless I'm going to be paid.
I'd like to point out before I go further that Dave Rubin in this video is trying to honestly talk and discuss and reach these people that say how awful they are. I like the one lady that talks about how she's not going to talk about her oppression without being paid. I'm not going to talk about how I was hurt without a little green. That is, by the way, a big journalism no-no. And I appreciate the NPR people still live by this. Most of Western journalism does. You don't get paid to do interviews. You don't get paid to talk to people. This is not true. In many parts of the world, that is not the truth. In fact, more of the world has a journalism standard where we might let it by. We might be okay with that. If you have to pay someone to be interviewed or get paid to interview. Okay, side note, going back to the video.
Unless I'm going to be paid.
It's an oppression Olympics. It's a hierarchy of oppressions.
Oppression Olympics?
Yeah, so you've got to figure out how you are oppressed. If you have a limp, you're this much oppressed. Or if you're a Jew, this much oppressed. Or a Muslim, this much oppressed. Everyone wants to be oppressed.
The Black Lives Matter movement is global.
There's truth behind it. Blacks have been oppressed. Women, some still are. Women are sometimes oppressed.
No society is perfect, but the United States, by and large, has given more freedom to more people from every walk of life, regardless of your skin color, your sexuality. We have problems, yes. We can talk about all of those things, but to tell me those are things because you are oppressed, it ain't true, and that idea needs to be decimated.
Oh, Dave Rubin, you're giving me feels. I got a little patriotic from listening to that. Did you get that last idea there? He talked about how the United States has made people more free than ever before in the history of man. And, it doesn't matter your skin, your color, your whatever you are, whatever you have, this is still the most free. And he talks about that last part. It's a really important idea. He says, you may have been oppressed, but just because you are oppressed does not mean that everyone is oppressive and that everyone is getting oppressed. Okay, something bad may happen to you, but that doesn't mean that is a representative of everyone. Okay, we sometimes make this mistake. It's a classic psychological bias. We all have it, where something bad happens to you, so we assume it happens a lot out of there. It's called over-representativeness. Over-representativeness. There you go. That's a great idea that he brings up. Okay, now I made this mistake earlier where I mentioned that I'm a chronic pain dude. And sometimes I do end up thinking that way a little bit. It is true. There is a diversity Olympics. It's because intersectionality is a pyramid. It's a pyramid scheme. And, the lower you go, the better. You want to be at the bottom. It's like the old food pyramid where the grains were. That's where you want to be on the intersectionality period. You don't want to be at the top with the white, cisgender, heteronormative men in business suits who say naughty things and do naughty things. You don't want to be those guys. They're the worst. Okay? Man, Dave Rubin, that was awesome. So that was a video. It's on the outline. It's by Reason. It's John Stossel on Reason. John Stossel, my hero. He's also, I watched a video of him being interviewed by Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder, he got into politics. His interest in politics came from John Stossel. He is also a huge John Stossel fan. He and I both had the same book for our political awakening, which is Get a Shovel. This is a sort of autobiography by John Stossel about his career, and it's awesome book. Completely and totally recommend it. And I mentioned this earlier about the study, so I'm just going to share it now. So this one is flabbergasting to me. This is one of two studies that I've read in the last week that have completely changed my mind about where our country is as a nation. Okay, so here's the study that I wanted to share with all of you. As soon as I read it, I knew I had to share it. It's called, you can find this on the outline. Study Finds is the website. It says, Far From United, Political Divide in America, the Worst It's Ever Been. The research was conducted by Zachary Neal, who is an associate professor of psychology and global urban studies at Michigan State University, and is among the first to measure polarization, not only by examining the frequency of parties working together, but also by demonstrating how they've grown much more distant than any other time in modern history. I like how the study says that Zach tries to not point blame on anyone, but the study basically says that since the 1970s, polarization has gotten worse. It was right at the beginning of the 1980s that it got super bad, then it got a little bit normal, and then it got super duper bad again. And we are at the worst polarization that it's ever been. Since people have started following these things, we're at the worst polarization that's ever been. It's a cool study. It's very much a study, so you have to have a little bit experience reading it. But basically, they made two definitions. They have weak polarization and strong polarization. Weak polarization, whereas parties don't work together, but strong polarization is where parties don't talk to each other at all. It's not that we don't work with you. It's not that we don't disagree with you. We shun you. You're off the island. I voted him off the island. And off the island actually means to a cushy room at Good Morning America where you get to talk about the island. Receive your paycheck. So weak polarization is what we used to have, where we disagree with each other. At the end of the day, we go and get coffee. We eat at our fancy restaurant and eat our fancy drinks, our fancy food, because we're rich politicians, okay? We're buddies in real life, but in politics, we kind of, we play this game. Well, that's weak polarization. Strong polarization is, I hate your bloody guts. I'm going to take a cane. I'm going to beat you silly. You will die sometime later. And my side will cheer about it. No, I may have got part of that story wrong. He might have actually lived. I can't remember. But anyhow, of course, I'm referring to the right before the Civil War, where one senator went over and beat another senator to death. And he was arrested for it, but the South cheered. That's strong polarization. That's very worst. We're more that direction than we are the other guys. And that should scare the living daylights out of every good-blooded patriot in this country. I tell you, that really is scary. And he says at this point, the professor that made the study, great insight. He says, they said, according to Politico, who cited the study, they have developed virtually no report, that's actually rapport, but there's a T at the end, in a body where trust and relationships are essential. To the extent they've engaged has mainly been to launch political and at times personal attacks. And Zach says that if you think things couldn't get possibly worse, they probably will. And the margin, and he says particularly if the margin in politics between majority and minority rule remains so thin, like his example is the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act that only Democrats with a bare majority passed and then got amended when the Republicans took charge. I'd say amended lightly. The vast majority of it's still in, guys. We're kind of in that situation right now. You guys think about the blue wave. It's a blue trickle. It's looking close. While our politics are so closely divided and the margins are so thin, that just amps up the pressure. We're pushing down on the pot as it boils. We got the lid on the pot. We're pushing down. It builds up the pressure. That's what we're having. Fascinating study, really fascinating. I'm really interested from an academic point of view and a guy that likes politics. But from a point of view of I love this country and I love my brother and my sister, one a Republican, the other Democrat. I love them both. That saddens me. That really does. I can't tell you. Sometimes the vehemence between parties gets into our personal lives, and it's awful. It is the worst. I can tell you with perfect certainty, it is truly an awful, evil thing. And I believe that, I'm not going to get too religious here, but I bet Satan is enjoying himself a ton and is just licking at his lips for what's to come. In my church, they say that Satan it loves contention. Satan loves contention is a phrase that's been used in my house over the years. So you kind of mean to we shouldn't fight, we shouldn't argue. It's true. It's true. When I was a Mormon missionary, a thing they teach Mormon missionaries, and Mormon missionaries are more like a traditional missionary, like a Jesuit goes far off to teach. It's like a long-term thing. Mormon missionaries typically do it for 2 years. One of the things they tell you is if someone wants to argue religion, don't argue back. If you can, just leave. Not that, because they're saying that if we're going to argue about the merits of the Bible versus whatever, that this Holy Spirit can't be there. Only contention will be there. That's kind of, I think, where we are as a country. Now, I think the answer is to talk to each other, but not talk past each other. If we're going to be like that, where you yell at me about how the New Testament's the most awesome thing ever, and I say, I like the New Testament, and I like the Book of Mormon, but let me tell you in all the ways that the errors in the Bible are, and blah, 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 they go on and on and on. We're talking past each other. No one's benefiting. We're only getting heated. Instead, if we could sit down and we could talk about, where we agree. I as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, believe in the Bible, believe the Bible to be the Word of God. And actually, we agree in a whole awful lot. And then there are people from both sides, from both religions, that have a lot to benefit that we could learn about. And we should find a love in our fellow man. And we are more alike than we are different. That's what the conversation should be between Americans. That's not what's happening. We're refusing to talk to each other. We're shunning each other. How is it going to get better if we don't talk to each other? If mom and dad don't talk anymore, on how many sitcoms does that ever turn good? I should say not sitcoms, but you know what I'm saying. On the soap operas, when they stop talking to each other, that's usually when they get the mistresses and they get the divorce. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but you get the idea. Not good, not healthy. Dave Rubin is one of these people that's kind of, if we would follow his example, we could come back as a country and we could heal that divide. Dave Rubin was willing to put himself out there, talk to people honestly. He's like, hey, you want to interview? You're interesting. Let's interview. I don't care what your politics are. And we'll debate. We'll learn from each other. And he just does it. And he puts out interviews, 3 hours, 4 hours long. He's having these long, lengthy interviews. He shares it with you. He goes again and again and again. It's good for him. It's good for the person that interviewed. And most importantly, it's good for the viewer. That's what we need to be doing as a country. We need to come back together again. Think about 9/11. Think about how we were as a country. Those of you that can remember 9/11, we were so committed to each other. We were so committed to the manifest destiny that was the United States of America and all the good it could do. We wanted to bring it all the way there. Dave Rubin here is showing us the way. Thank you, Stossel. Thank you, Dave Rubin, for this awesome video. And thank you to Professor Zachary Neal of the Michigan State University for putting together this study and figuring that out. I'm sad with the results, but I'm glad you did it. All right, so a couple more things, fun things, then a video, and then that will be the end of part 1. Part 2 will cover intersectionality and news you might have missed. Okay, so I'd like to quickly talk to you about Sioux City. Sioux City is kind of fun. I talked to a guy at SuperCon. They were a couple that sold used video games. They had a booth there, and I was talking about Sioux City, and we were talking about, man, the traffic in Sioux City is awful. It really is. Every time. So here's the thing. I live in Sioux Falls. Sioux City is our sister city. When Obama came to Sioux Falls, he called us Sioux City. We often get the two confused. But here's what Sioux Falls has better than Sioux City. Sioux Falls isn't a giant speed trap. Okay, every single time, almost every single time in my life, we go through Sioux City, the thing's under construction. It goes from 55 to 60, and then goes from 65 to 45. And I mean, the speeds kind of jump and change pretty fast. And I know I'm exaggerating how often it happens, but it's often enough where I've had family members get tickets before, and it's not cops that catch you. It's cameras, speed cameras. Very easily, very finely tuned speed cameras that if you just get an inch, if you just move, sorry, an inch is a measure of distance, like parsecs. If you just move just a bump over the speed limit, they'll take a picture, and then you'll get a letter in the mail a month later from the Sioux City whatever, and they'll charge you, and you're expected to pay it. It got so bad 5-6 years ago, the South Dakota State Legislature was saying, hey, we're going to pass a bill that says you can't enforce your law over here, which would be some issues because of how Congress the federal government enforces the intersection. I'm not getting to it. But anyhow, it'd be a problem. Well, it very well could be getting worse because there's this kind of neat story in Quartz magazine that said not so fast. That sign telling you how fast you're driving may be spying on you. And it says that, so you ever drive past one of those signs and it has the kind of a screen on it, and what's on the screen changes depending on how fast your car is going. It's kind of cool, actually. Well, apparently these things have those cameras that are on them isn't just an infrared camera. Instead, the DEA is starting to equip these signs with real cameras, and they're taking their license plate. Congress only found out about this in 2008. The public only found out about it somewhat in 2012. There's being an argument being made that these things are being used more than we know, and that should this be done at all? Because I agree. I don't think it should be done at all. I'm more the human. The human should find you if you're breaking the speed limit. Okay, there's certain laws where if no one's around, it really is okay to break. Or if you break it, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, other laws, it's more important that you enforce them at the moment. And we could argue which is what and which is which. Which is what and what is which. I still have just a tad of that Kanye West energy. It's not quite left me. That masculinity energy. This awesome magazine article, and you should read it. They talked to a law professor who says this might be actually against the law. They bring in a senior policy analyst from the ACLU who thinks it's wrong for the government to arbitrarily collect such a broad swath of data in the first place. And the DEA will hold on your license plate number and any other information they may be taking and just holding on to it, just in case. Just in case. I may not charge you with anything, but I just like to have that here. And think of this as everywhere. On Luke Cage, there's this part about where they want to figure out the crime that one of the guys, he said, well, we got your license plate number a mile away. Now just imagine that the government did that everywhere, and they'll hold on to it forever. And so they know where your car is at loads of places and times, and they just might, connect you with a crime. Well, the government would never intrude on your rights and falsely accuse you of something. False accusations never happen. And government operatives and agents, policemen, they never overstep their bounds. They never make wrong calls. I mean, this data, we should let them have. In fact, we should give them all our data. Have all the data in the world. Why not? They're safe. We can trust them. They would never misuse it. Sad. It is kind of scary. A little end thing here says, I like this. It's from Sabrina Chang, a professor of law and ethics at Boston's University Questrom. Is it Questrom or Questrom? Questrom School of Business told courts, "We as a society have to think long and hard about the consequences. I don't think anyone would begrudge law enforcement help in doing their jobs. We all want them to do their jobs really, really well. But what are we willing to give up?" And if you know a good thing about, and this is me now, and if you know a good thing about Benjamin Franklin, he has a good saying about security and freedom. All right, well, good news, everyone. The Chinese superstar that I thought probably was dead isn't dead. She was just in a Chinese gulag. But no, good, it's okay. She's okay, people. She's alive. Fan Bingbing, which is such a great name. I want that to be my actor name, Peter Bingbing. Oh, come on, guys. It's fun. Nothing can be fun anymore. She has reappeared. She went into hiding because she owed $112 million in back tax. Sorry, euros in back taxes. At least saying the Chinese government. So here's what China is saying. They're saying that she broke what was called a yin-yang contract, which means in the way this is two for the same job. I'm reading now from The Guardian. The smaller figure, it was implied, was declared to the tax office. The larger one was what the star was actually paid. So it says, "We want Fan Bingbing on our new movie." Okay, so you send this sheet of paper to the tax office. Here's what we're actually going to pay her because, China's crazy. We don't want it to eat all of their money or whatever. I don't know. This is the way they did. This is just the way they paid actors. But it's not just that. As I've told, I may have mentioned it before, but Xi Jinping, the new Chinese president forever, he is pushing forward more Maoist policies, and they want their monies, and they want stronger control of society. And so part of this was to punish Fan Bingbing because they felt that she wasn't a good enough. Okay, so it's two things. One, it was making an example of. You need to make an example of someone to get all the rest of the entertainment industry. So who do we go to? Who do we find it to be taken example of? Well, we go to the top billing, of course, which is Fan Bingbing. Okay, so that was the one thing. The other thing was Fan Bingbing. She wasn't playing as nice as she could. She had a 0 on the new government social network that all Chinese people are required to use and have and keep up. Because China, when they watch Black Mirror, they think, that looks like a great idea. I didn't mean that sarcastic either. I think they really do look at that show for advice. But no, so Fan Bingbing, who was in 2 Marvel movies, one, the Chinese version of Iron Man 3, which I want to see. Robert, if you hear this, Robert, get the Chinese version of Iron Man 3. Let's watch it. I haven't seen that thing in forever. Iron Man 3. I didn't like it as well. I liked it more than 2. Anyhow, and she also played Blink in the X-Men Days of Futures Past, which you need to watch the Rogue Cut. Buy the Rogue Cut of Days of Futures Past. Really good. And so, because she wasn't keeping up her core social values, she had to disappear. She even came out with an awesome statement. Here, I want to read you this statement. Doesn't this sound lovely? Here is what Fan Bingbing said back in July, which she gave as a groveling confession on Weibo. And Weibo is, of course, the Chinese social network I was talking about. "For a long time, I did not distinguish between national, social, and personal interests. As a public figure, I should abide by the law and play a leading role in society and industry. Without the good policies of the party and the state, and without the love of the people, there would be no Fan Bingbing." Even this article for The Guardian says, in short, Fan seems to have been made as an example of. So yes, Fan Bingbing got disappeared. So she wasn't killed, but she was disappeared. And she owed the Chinese state a whole lot of moolah. If she really owed that or not, I don't know. Fan Bingbing made someone mad. Someone's like, man, she is awful in that one movie. Oh, I hate her. We should do something about that. And then you got this guy next to me aye, comrade, we should make that bourgeoisie fall to the proletariat and suffer the tyranny. Or something. Suffer the tyranny they put upon us. But comrade, aren't we the bourgeoisie? Shh, shh, shh. No, they can't know that. Shh, quiet, quiet. I mean, wow, that's crazy. That is just bonkers. You know, I'm glad she lived. And if I was Fan Bingbing, I would get the heck out of Dodge. I would I would get political asylum in the United States or Canada or Sweden or something. And I would live the rest of my life with private security. I'd be like, I am never going back there. I don't care how much money and how much fame. You know, I don't want to die. Because, you know, if she does make the party mad, apparently if they're willing to disappear once, you think they're not willing to disappear her again. You know, in that way, I think Blink truly was the best X-Men character for her to play. All right, well, before I get to the conclusion video of today's show, and their video comes from Reason.com again, it's by Remy. He has a new one. It's Banana, a free trade Havana parody. Very funny. There's this thing that came out this week. This isn't the first time allegations have been made. It's just that one little guy actually went out there and put out his thesis paper about why Star Wars... okay, so Last Jedi, if you haven't heard, is awful. It is hated by longtime Star Wars fans. The vast majority hate it. Or at least enough that it caused the solo Star Wars film to tank. That's how much Last Jedi is hated. I stick to my theory on this. I think it was like my second or third episode of The Happy Warrior we went over this with Robert. I know. Last Jedi is awful. Really awful. May have killed the Star Wars franchise's longevity in the long term. That's redundant. Anyhow, so this thing came out, and they're saying, well, look, this study proves that all those people that hate Last Jedi are just Russian trolls. They're a bunch of Russian bots. They're not real. This is, okay, so here's my biggest thing. The biggest thing is, it's one study. Biggest thing, number 2, he used Twitter to do it. Okay, it wasn't looking at their views on Rotten Tomatoes. It wasn't looking at ticket sales. It was looking at Twitter. If you use Twitter, you know the good half of the people on Twitter are bots and trolls. Well, of course, then you'd find that the majority are trolls and bots. I mean, goodness gracious. It's just silly the amount of people that are bot accounts on Twitter. Twitter even recognizes this. So I don't know what this is, but people that want to protect Last Jedi because it's an SJW wet dream are looking for a perfect excuse, just like the Hillary Clinton voters. And in fact, I'm not going to go there. Just like the Hillary Clinton voters, they want something to blame besides the truth that it's just not liked. Hillary Clinton was not likable. Even if you disagreed, if you loved Hillary Clinton's policies, she didn't have a good image. I mean, she was the worst Democrat you could have put out there, okay? She's the worst choice of a candidate because she was just not likable. You have Obama, who's super likable, and then you go from him to a woman that you would try hard not to portray as a cackling hag. In fact, look up Hillary Clinton laugh. Does that not sound like a cackle? Now, I know that is a bit misogynist. I know that's also ageist. That's just where our society is, okay? Sorry, guys. It's the truth. Hillary Clinton is not likable. Last Jedi is not good. It's not a good Star Wars movie. Neither of them are likable. Stop trying to make stupid excuses for why they're not liked. Okay, and don't go to bunk science studies to try to prove your theories right. You're just tearing us apart. Just like the country, they're tearing us Star Wars fans apart.
I don't know you anymore. Anakin, you're breaking my heart. You're going down a path I can't follow.
Sorry about that. I just had to get that clip in once I had mentioned that. Oh, man, I love that movie. So great, so great. Even though the parts of it are cheesy. I mean, all 6 of the original Star Wars movies are cheesy, guys. Or at least that's the way the dialogue is written. It's stilted dialogue written by a fantastic man, and it's awesome. Okay, to love proper Star Wars, you just gotta love all that cheese. 'Cause it's super gooey with masculine energy from the galaxy.
Bananas, ooh na na. Let's put some tariffs on bananas, ooh na na. They should be grown in East Atlanta, na na na. or maybe even Alabama. Take jobs back from Havana. Bananas, ooh, nah, Havana is killing us on trade, I fear. Now that seems over. Look, they have jobs we no longer have here. And now we sell iPhones. Why can't we grow bananas ourselves? They taste worse than Costco. Don't be so stubborn, try one yourself. They need more water. Just grab and peel it like ooh. The texture is intriguing. Internally I'm bleeding. Got me feeling like ooh. We're gonna make a killing. I have to go. Oh na 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 na. Bananas, ooh na na. We'll put some tariffs on bananas, ooh na na. They'll soon be grown in East Atlanta, na na na. Does he ever talk? Or maybe even in Savannah. We're brilliant central planners. Bananas, ooh na na. Jeffries graduated fresh on campus, man. Fresh out East Atlanta with no manners, man. Pump, 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 pump. You'd have to pump in heat and water, dude. You need it hot, hot, hotter than Demi Lovato spoon. Too soon. Trading on me, shorty trading on me. Get you trading on me. Put that bacon on me. Put that maple on me. It's a corn on me. But that trade deficit I can't apply. We got a trade deficit with Santa Claus. Free trades like a magic wand. Turns what you make best into what you want. Bananas, ooh na na. We've gone absolutely bananas, ooh na na. So listen to these central planners, na na na. Tell us how we should grow bananas, how we should trade bananas. Horns! Woo!
And there we have it, folks. That's the awesome video. It's from Reason.com by Remy. It's called Banana Free Trade Havana Parody. That is the end of part 1 of our 2-part special about intellectual honesty. The next episode, we're going to talk about intersectionality and how that has affected the world. And then I'm going to cover important news that we all decided to forget about and not talk about during the Kavanaugh hearings. Well, mostly it was because the media decided to ignore it and the rest of us stooges don't know any better. But that's besides the point. I mean, we all have busy lives, real things to do. We expect the people on the TV to give us the real news, right? That's their job, right? They get paid, right? Okay, sorry, I've still got a little bit of that masculine energy from Kanye West I have to shake off. Thank you so much to the Happy Warrior program. If you have questions, comments, anything you'd like to tell me, if you have a story you'd like to add, if you just want to say hi, please email me at Pete, P-E-T-E, at happy-warrior.net. That's Pete at happy-warrior.net. Also, check out our Facebook, Happy Warrior Pete. I think you type in, or you can probably just find it by typing in Facebook, Happy Warrior. Please check out all the other awesome Sioux Empire podcasts. The Dress Code is really funny. I've listened to that one recently. I was there at the live recording, and it's pretty funny. Not SFW, a little bit of language. This program is safe for the kiddies, but some of the others aren't. So definitely check that out first. But please be sure to listen to it. Robert Melling is producer on just about every one of them. He's a genius. You should love him. If you know what, if you want to email me and say hi to Robert, I'll tell him. I'll give him a big hug and pat on the back. This is the Happy Warrior podcast. Please tune in next time. Either it'll be the part 2 or you'll be hearing my interview with Professor Duke Pesta, who found a creative solution to dealing how to bring us back to intellectual honesty. And last but not least, God bless the United States of America. God bless the military and all those people that have served and shed blood in defense of our rights and liberties. God bless the Americans, the America, and God bless you. Thank you for listening. You have a great night, y'all.
Thank you for listening. The Happy Warrior Podcast, hosted by Peter Von Pischke, produced by Robert Mailing, a production of the Sioux Empire Podcast Network. Learn more at happy-warrior.net.
生まれ a production of the SiouxEmpire.com.